Welcome to the Mental Health Boot Camp podcast. Woo! This is the podcast where 4 psychotherapists, 3 of us Canadian, 1 of us American, serve you cutting-edge mental health knowledge. I'm Dr. Ryan Howes, a licensed clinical psychologist from Pasadena, California.
And I'm Dr. Brooke Lewis, a registered clinical counselor from Coquitlam, BC, Canada.
And I'm Joanna Boyd, a psychotherapist from the Greater Vancouver area.
And I'm Chris Boyd, a registered clinical counselor from Coquitlam.
Right on. Welcome to June, everybody. Oh, we've already been in June. Welcome to the middle of June, everybody. And it's summertime.
It is.
And
solstice is happening.
What's happening, sorry?
Summer solstice
Oh,
in
right.
another 6 days.
6 days.
And
we spring forward, right? Or has that already happened?
that's already happened. But and in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, the sun never sets. Is that right? You guys are in the Arctic Circle? No?
No, not quite.
Okay, not that high. I understand. Just joking.
Not quite. Yeah.
But it's still pretty bright out right now, and it's
Oh yeah,
pretty
yeah.
bright,
That like
so.
the clouds are just sort of turning pink,
yeah.
and the
Wow.
sky is still blue out there. Yep.
I love it.
And
it's
long
9:01.
days.
Yes.
Long days. It's a bit sad that in 6 days the days start getting shorter already.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
But that does lead for hot August nights, which are
Yeah.
great for outdoor movie nights.
Oh.
It's still really nice and warm out, but the sun sets earlier, so it's a nice mix. You can still watch movies. Like if we wanted to do a projector in the yard,
Nice.
have people over or something, and yeah.
Watch Moana.
Have a late night swim. Can we all be in floaties in the pool? And
Yeah,
watch
we could watch
Moana?
Jaws
Oh my
or
god.
Moana or Titanic or the
How are
Greatest
you
Showman
guys-
and do a dance movie night.
How are you guys for mosquitoes and biting bugs and all that stuff?
We got lots of mosquitoes.
Do you?
They're already out.
Do we have that much?
I
Oh,
think
less
we
than-
do.
Less than the cabin.
I guess so. But yeah, I think but like Chris and our brother Jeff, like his backyard backs onto like a ravine and sit in his backyard for a little bit and there's lots of bugs. Anyways, I guess it
Yeah.
depends where you go, but
But nothing compared to like Manitoba,
sure.
like
Yeah,
Winnipeg.
no.
They actually
Mhm.
spray for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing
Like
like
it's-
that.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Now, speaking of bugs, isn't there a crazy locust something in Washington State? The year of the locust thing?
I'm not familiar. We Californians don't talk about anyone else, so I don't know.
Yeah, there's like every 17 years, there's a crazy infestation, and this is the year.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's like satellite images of like a green blob kind of over Washington State, and it's
Really?
like
Wow.
Well, luckily the border's still closed.
I
eh?
know. I was gonna
those
say
little buggos can't come over here. But yeah, apparently you can like there's like an incessant buzzing all the time when you're outside and all crazy, crazy stuff. You didn't know about this, Ryan? You look like genuinely perplexed.
I grew up in Oregon. We did have a locust problem there as well when I was growing up. I remember that. They're loud. They eat all the crops. It's horrible. But I didn't know that it was a big deal in the state of Washington. And I also didn't know that apparently your border can protect you from locusts.
Well, I think maybe it might be a little further down. I thought it was in Washington State, but
Yeah.
maybe it's more Oregon.
No, I mean, I do not know, but I'm sure that it's problematic. I know that locusts have been a problem around the world at times and throughout history. So yes.
So apparently they come here every 17 years.
Uh-huh. Interesting. The cicadas are also a 17-year bug.
Oh,
I
maybe I'm
believe.
thinking cicadas then.
And that's in the southeast United States. But
it looks like 17-year cicadas. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So what is it? I wonder what's happening right now, the locusts or the cicadas on the Northwest?
the Northwest. I
Are
don't
you
know.
sure it's not the East Coast?
Yeah, I thought I saw it on the news that it was in Washington. Am I totally
I think
wrong?
it might be Washington, D.C.
Oh.
Oh boy.
I think it's the East Coast, Brooke.
Wow, I was wrong.
Well,
Well, it's a good thing we had this banter because
It
it
is a
could have
good
been
thing.
throwing people off in Washington State. Oh my
Freaking out about
God.
the
Okay, cicadas in
buzzing.
DC as opposed to
Cicadas.
locusts in Washington. Well,
Woo.
Brooke, I think a sign of a mature and healthy person is someone who could say, you know what, I was wrong about that, and
I was totally wrong.
I made a mistake, and
I did.
and that's okay. There's a lot of people I hear in my therapy practice of a lot of people who are really unable to admit to being wrong,
Mhm.
and kind of the havoc that wreaks in the lives of people around them sometimes, right?
Yes.
So maybe someday we'll get into some of those relational dynamics, get into how people communicate and fess up to their shortcomings or hold tight to being right. As one of the sayings goes, you can be right or in relationship. You can't usually be both. Or you can't be both all the time. You got to be able to say, my mistake, mea culpa. I screwed up. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's not easy.
Well, no,
People get
yeah.
defensive, right?
Yeah.
So for
Totally.
those listeners in Delaware, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and on, watch out.
Wow, I was totally
brute.
off.
Yeah.
So basically any state but Washington State.
Yeah. Washington, you're good.
Way to go. Enjoy the summer. And for those who aren't in any of those states, just Google cicada and take a look at this creature. It looks demonic and otherworldly. They are big and kind of grody looking, but
Yeah.
in my opinion.
When I don't know, it sound like crickets, no? A little bit, no?
A little bit.
Or
but
just
like,
buzzing. Chris, we've heard that before. Even at the cabin, I feel like that's a bit of the cicada stuff. But anyways,
Is it?
let's move on. I don't know. I think of Italy too when we were there, and it was just constant buzzing. But we just got used to it. It just became part of the ambiance. But there wasn't a big infestation of them, so I guess I can't talk. But
Those are
No.
crickets.
all right.
Okay.
Well, it's been an action-packed podcast so far already.
But quite
So-
the start to a mental
Important
health
things.
boot camp or podcast. Yeah.
Yes, right. We are throwing misdirections and everything all over the place. And for those, the many regular listeners who we've been fortunate to accumulate through the months here, have to let you know that next week we're actually not going to have one. We're going to take that week off.
And why is that, Ryan?
Why is that? Well, I'm going to take a little vacation and I'll just be away and won't be able to be too far away from this microphone to make a podcast. So I'll definitely be thinking up new topics because I think actually as soon as I come back, it's my topic. So
Yeah. When do you, what day do you come back?
the 27th.
Okay.
Yep. So I won't be here and we will be dark. But next week would actually be a great week. If any of you are loyal listeners, really have enjoyed what you've heard through these 47 episodes of the podcast.
Ooh.
Might be good to spin back through, look through those old podcasts, listen through and try to figure out which one was your favorite, because we're coming upon a year anniversary of doing this podcast. And I think we'll be talking a little bit about which was our favorite episode.
Oh.
So listen back, see which one was the most fun for you. Maybe it was sleep hygiene. Maybe it was sleep hygiene part 2. Maybe it was toxic masculinity. Maybe it was one of our many guests. Maybe it was sometime when we were comparing Canada and the United States. Who knows? But all that to say, we'll catch you in July. That will be the next time we'll give an episode. All right. With that, shall we just dive into our topic?
I think so.
Okay. I'm down
One
with
second.
that. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm just going to cut and paste it here.
Okay, so it's Chris. Oh man, a Chris topic. I don't know that I have. Not that I have it in me for a Chris topic tonight.
Maybe that means there's a guest.
I don't
Yeah, let
know.
me just text them. Log on now. Okay, here it comes.
Here it comes. Let's see. Okay. Wow. Whoa, this is a little different. This is a twist.
Ooh.
It's a big twist. Okay. If you could sit down with anyone, dead or alive, and have a conversation with that person for an hour, who would it be and what would you ask?
So this is a question I actually ask quite a few clients in my therapy sessions, usually early on as I'm trying to understand maybe some of their preferences and what gives them meaning and purpose. So we may actually have time to talk about more than one person. So maybe we can aim for even 2 or 3 people that we could sit down and chat with. And then maybe towards the end, we can talk about how this information could be useful. So for those who are listening today, we'll maybe talk about a few practical ways in which, you can use this exercise yourself and maybe lead you in a path of growth.
I gotta say, Chris, this is a very different sort of question. I like it, but it's very,
I like it too.
it's different because you're not just asking us about a topic, like a subject area, which is what we usually get into, what is OCD? What is self-destructive behaviors? These sorts of things. You're actually giving us an exercise that you give to clients, and then we're gonna answer it, and then you're gonna point out how this sort of exercise is helpful. That is different. I like this.
Very different.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit of a curveball.
It is. So you're saying that maybe we will have more than one person. So we might ping pong this around a little bit and see.
That's what I'm thinking. So maybe we'll go around, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we could probably come up with 3. We should have enough time for that.
My
But,
goodness.
Yeah. So who wants to go first?
Not me.
Okay, Joanna.
No.
I have one. I have my default answer because Chris has asked this before. Joanna asked this at a staff retreat one year. So in our practice, there's quite a few of us, about 20, maybe just over that. And then once a year, sometimes we try for twice a year, we get together and we present to each other for an hour. So Joanna led that. She was, and she did some icebreaker questions, and this was one of them. So I think my answer is still kind of the same. I don't know if Joanna remembers what my answer was.
I don't.
So the first thing that comes to mind, because I'm a big advocate of that, I know that we've talked about before, your first thought, hold off on that, maybe go to your second thought, but I'm not gonna. So my first instant thought when I hear that question is I would like to sit down for an hour and be able to talk to and communicate with my dogs.
All right.
Yep, because I talk to them often. I have 2 of them. I've had dogs my whole life, and I often wonder what they're thinking. I know this is not a very deep answer, but it's kind of how my mind works. Like I'm very curious to know how the little doggo brain works and what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you suggesting that they have consciousness, of course, these dogs, but they would be able to carry on a conversation with you?
Mm-hmm. Or me with them. I don't know if they'd be speaking English or if I'd be speaking dog. I'm really not too sure.
Are we also sort of giving them human level intelligence so they can like put together words and discern things like?
So it's not like food, cuddles.
Love, cuddles,
Sorry,
love.
love.
Because that's what a dog is likely thinking, right?
Like one of my dogs has really bad breath, and I'm curious if she knows that. Because she'd be like, why does my breath smell so bad? Can you fix it for me? Even though I've tried many things. It's like she has eaten like rotting seagull.
Oh.
Her breath is so bad.
Oh.
Anywho, I would like to sit down for an hour and talk with my dogs.
Okay. A curveball followed by a curveball.
Yes.
Where my mind went initially is I'll probably sit down with a family member I never actually had a chance to meet.
Mm.
So I have 2 grandfathers. So my mom's dad died at a pretty young age. He was a public health doctor. So never had a chance to meet him at all. Then my dad's dad passed away when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. So You hear stories, you see pictures, but no memories of either of them. So they were quite different, I believe, but in terms of their personalities, but it'd be kind of fun to sit down and get a sense of what they're like.
And what would you like to, just a sense of what they were like? Do you have anything in particular you'd like to ask them, or anything you'd like to really learn from them?
You know, when I sorry, when it comes to a family member like that, I'm sure the conversation would probably naturally unfold.
Sure.
In terms of specifics, probably just catching up in terms of how life is going now. Again, my mom's dad was a pretty quirky guy. Seemed like he had a pretty good sense of humor. So maybe hearing some of his stories. And the other grandfather was very crafty. He liked to create things. So maybe something to do with one of his passions. It'd be kind of fun to get their perspective in regard to what it was like to raise my parents.
Mhm.
So I think that would be kind of fun to hear. So I imagine the conversation would naturally unfold. Lots to catch up on, of course, since there would be family members.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll piggyback on that if you don't mind me jumping in here, Joe.
No, go for it.
Since we're talking about family members, I mean, I think the main one for me is it's a pretty big one here, which is my mother passed away when I was 10,
Mm.
and I knew her as a little kid. I knew her from the perspective of a kid, and then after she died, I just heard kind of stories about her and other people's, like other adults' perspectives about her, and thoughts on who she was and what she was all about. But I'd like to know that for myself. So I would love to talk to her if I had this opportunity to sit down with my mom and talk to her. I know certain things about her life. I knew that she was really a bright student, and then kind of spent all of my life, at least, raising the family as a homemaker and being a wonderful, loving mom. But I guess I would have wondered, like, what her other ambitions might have been. Like, what else did she want to do after raising the kids, or instead of raising the kids? I don't know what else she might have wanted to do. What were her passions? Also, I'd like to know, from her perspective. I mean, shoot, I'm a psychologist, right? So I'd like to know what did she think of, who was I as a little kid? Who did she see me to be as she was raising me? And, who was I to her? These are like little reflections that, when you become like an early teen and start to become a little more self-aware and curious about yourself and your lineage and all of that, like, I didn't get to ask those questions to her. So I'd like to know, hey, how was I as a baby? Was I fussy? Was I pretty compliant? Did I seem to be pretty social? Did I keep to myself? I mean, I have my perspectives on this, but I know a parent's perspective is different, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I have a lot of questions I'd like to learn about who she was and about who she saw me to be. And then yeah, of course, I think, I mean, of course, she passed away young. She was only 40 when she died. And so she missed out on our development, as her children grew up and then had families of our own and all of that. And, I'm curious about what she would have thought about. I'm sure she hoped to be a part of that and live a long life with grandchildren and all that. So I'll have to talk to her about all that stuff. So yeah, just really a family connection on my part would be certainly my top choice. I have some others, but that leaps to the top of the list for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the family train. I think SIBO, yeah, I jumped to those, both grandpas of Chris and I passed away, well, before I was born, because I'm younger than Chris, so always curious to meet them. But I jumped to our Nana, because she passed away when I was 12. And that was the first big death in my family, like for me. And yeah, I just remember it all so well. And I think it would just be yeah, I've had a lot of kind of processing grief over the years from that death. And yeah, I would just love to have a conversation with her. I'd love to play a game of cards we call Little Heck. Yeah, ooh, it's hard not to get emotional. Yeah, just hearing, oh man, sorry guys. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, got in my feels a little bit listening to you there, Ryan. And I know this is, yeah, just I'd love for her to know me as who I am now, and just, yeah, just have a conversation. I think that would be so great. So totally would jump to family, any family I didn't get to meet. And yeah, but my nana would be one of the top. So yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, she had the most amazing laugh, very contagious
Oh
laugh.
man, she sure did. And I definitely picked up, I got my snoring from her, unfortunately. And I think my laugh, which also, you know, I don't know if people have watched or if I've laughed on this YouTube channel, but my face implodes and I go red, and it's just like a quiet laughter where I like cry. Looks like I'm in pain.
It's so
Definitely.
contagious. It's so
Yeah.
freaking contagious.
Oh man, so Nana, for sure, she had a great outward laugh, but man, she also got that, her face kind of going in there a bit. And yeah, so that would be great. So nice to know. Yeah.
Thanks for going there, Joe. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just hard not to go through some of those memories and what you would have said at the time, or I was just really young, didn't really know the severity of it all. So yeah, anyways, so
Well, we're on the family route. That I'm sure I could think of a family member as well, but I think out of all of them, I would pick people that I don't know. So my dad was adopted, and he doesn't want to know his biological background, his biological parents or anything. So I would be curious to meet a grandparent or even a great grandparent on his, like a biological great grandparent on his side, to kind of know our lineage and where we kind of came from and what stories are behind that. There's a little bit of unfinished business there. And out of respect for my dad, I would never search that out unless he wanted to know. I feel like that would be a big family secret for me to go around and figure that out without his blessing. So yeah, be very curious.
So many questions, hey?
Yeah, so many questions. Like there's a whole half of me that I have no clue about.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird, right? So yeah. Yeah, there's no story.
No.
Like there's a story, there's a, like my adoptive grandparents, my dad's adoptive parents. I know a little bit of her story, my Grammy's story, Grammy and Pa. Not
Granny
too
and
much,
Pa?
but a little bit. Yeah, Grammy and Pa.
Okay.
Pa passed away when I was 3 years old, and Grammy passed away just a few years ago. We'd call her Bernie Baby. Her name was Bernice, Bernie Baby. And my grandfather, he passed away from mad cow disease when I was 3. Like, so he went crazy and declined really quickly and passed away. But it sounds like just this total random family stories now. But they met when they were just teenagers, and his name is Bob. So little Bobby, I guess my Grammy's dad, Bernice's dad, would stay up because somebody was creeping into their yard, into their fruit trees, stealing their trees at nighttime. And so it was little Bobby Lewis was doing that. So they like caught him as a teenager and whatnot. And so Grammy was always like, oh, he was such a bad boy. He was such a bad kid. And then when they were like 19, they got married. So, and started having babies. And or a baby, my Auntie Carolyn, and then my dad was adopted, and his younger brother Greg was adopted. But now Greg found his adoptive parents. My dad doesn't want to know.
Wow.
So big mystery. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, can we a quick departure just for a second here?
Yeah,
I really want to come back because I have another person or two that I want to talk about that would like to meet. But since we all kind of went around like this family loop here, right? Like these deceased family members that we either know or didn't know or knew a little bit or not enough of or whatever. just a little therapy question for you, which is, if you were to talk to them, what question do you think they would have for you? Right? What do you think they would want to ask you?
Mm.
'Cause
Well, that's a very projective question, isn't it?
it is. It is.
I think, yeah, I think mine right away goes to, are you happy?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yep.
Like, are you okay? Are you healthy? And are you happy?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Or what's your passion? What's your interest? What are you doing? It's so funny. Often the default question when you see friends and family is, or people you just met, is what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Versus
Not who
who
are
are
you?
you? Or
Mm-hmm.
getting
Or
to
up
know the
here, it's
person.
also not just what do you do, but where are you from?
Mm.
Yeah.
Is a very, very common question up here. When you meet someone, they're like, where are you from? And
Yeah.
then it's, what do you do for a living? Yeah.
Mhm. Yes. I was just thinking about that, Brooke, and actually that was the question I first came up with as well, which was, are you happy? You know, it's interesting how we, you know, if we imagine the people who are, you know, from whom we descend, right? Grandparents, parents, biological people that we don't even really know, they probably just want to know, are you happy? Are you doing okay? Like, are you, is life good for you? Right?
That's what I would assume, especially when you think back, like how drastic, the difference of what life would have been like for our grandparents and great grandparents, which isn't
it's
even
true.
really that long ago. But the quality of life and the stressors that they had to go through in the war and immigration and all of these things, like yeah, survival was so important, and making sure everybody was fed and clothed and housed, and that's all that life was about, like, is making sure that you're alive. And I think that, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, but I also was like, when you asked that, I tried to think, well, if it was third generations from me pulling me back to see, ask a question or whatever, that would be the first one I would ask.
Yep.
Are you happy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, just something to point out
Mm-hmm.
there, that's probably what would matter to someone, you know, whatever their offspring are in the lineage there. To want to know, are you passionate about something? What drives you? Do you have a purpose? Are you happy? Are you content? Are you okay? Are you healthy?
I think another little bit deeper layer there, because I used to think a little bit that it depends on religious beliefs and whatnot, but that there'd be, you know, a heaven, and or that, you know, there's loved ones watching down over you. And so, you know, at times you could be like, oh, well, that would kind of be weird because I see everything. But other times if you come at it from that way, so if I were to have a conversation with my Nana, knowing that she has seen everything so far in my life, my choices I've made, where I'm at, knowing that you'd have a conversation with someone who there's really not much to hide from, how would that conversation go, right? What do you think that they would ask you? Or are there some things that you would feel like you'd want to explore with them, or that you'd have to come to terms with if you've kind of, I don't know. I just think it would be interesting, because I think when you ask that question, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like she's already seen everything I've done. And so what opinions would she have? What would she say? Would she have some, I actually know how you're feeling right now, or I know how you're feeling about that thing. And, you know, what are you doing? Or where are you going? Or
she wouldn't lead off with, what the heck were you thinking? Right.
who knows? I don't know. But anyway, I just think, yeah, just I've thought about that in that way too. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's
Not they're coming to the conversation not knowing anything, that they already
Yeah.
know everything, and they're going to kind of share some insights or
Oh, boy.
ask some good questions. Mhm.
Which is interesting, because I think then, like, talking about projection of all of this,
Mhm.
I would then project my wiser self voice
Totally.
onto that
person. Exactly.
to say it's okay, like whether that's
Mm-hmm.
compassion, acceptance, love, forgiveness, or giving your head a shake to
Totally.
say, root back to your morals and your values and what is
Mhm.
your path if you're struggling with something, and like, how can we get you through that? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And are you happy? And if you're not, let's do something about that. Like totally
You
a
don't
conversation
have
with
to
your
stay stuck in
mom.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Brooke, time out. What do you mean when you're talking about projection in this context? What do you mean? What is projecting?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ryan. So projecting it like a projector screen. If you're a projector and there's a screen and you put the image on it. And so in this context, if it were somebody, an ancestor, relative, a person, anyone, and you were to have this conversation, you might be projecting what you believe to be true or what you need in that moment. Like, it's already coming from you, but you're just putting it on the screen of them and imagining that they're feeding you that information. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's not coming from them. It's coming from within you.
Ah,
So
yes.
deep down, you probably know these things.
Mhm.
But when it's coming from an image that you probably have connected with love, acceptance, or family, or like, yeah, you might have a different language set. So it's not quite your critical voice, is probably coming from a different place of you. But it's you.
Yeah.
It's your voice.
It's been internalized.
Mhm.
Sometimes we need to kind of externalize it in order to hear it better, right? Like
Yeah.
this is what my passed away great grandfather would say. He would tell me this, even though that's really your own wisdom that you're just kind of putting on to him, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of degree of separation there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And for just everyday stuff, I feel like most of us do it all the time. You might project your insecurities onto assuming what other people like are thinking, or if they're judging you, or I don't know. It could be like you make a joke about something you just did, or you feel a bit weird about it, and you are almost assuming that person is already thinking that. But I've caught myself in a few conversations, and I've been like, oh, I'm totally just projecting. I was totally self-conscious about that, and I just put, I assumed you were thinking that, and it's happened so often that I don't think I think we could catch ourselves a lot more.
I've got a great one. Great projection example right here. And it has to do with the dog. So you'll like this, Brooke, right? So in a few days, my boys are going to go to summer camp, a sleepaway camp, right? And one of my boys came in tonight and said, "Oh, I'm feeling really bad for our dog right now." I'm like, "Oh, really? What's going on? What's happening there?" He says, "Oh, I think she's really sad that we're going away to camp." I think she's gonna miss us. I think she's really sad that we're gonna be leaving. I'm like, oh, that's too bad.
Mhm.
What can we do for her to make her feel better about that? Just little things to try to nurture that. But that's I think a good example of projection.
Totally.
I don't know that the dog really has a sense of the fact that 3 days from now the boys are going somewhere, but I think my son is saying, I'm kind of sad to be leaving my dog or to be leaving home, or some mixed feelings about that, and that's very natural and normal and healthy and all that. But that's a nice little projection example, right? The dog is sad. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. The dog is the one that's sad. Let's take care of her, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
Okay, we diverted a while here, Chris. We got to go back to your question.
So I'm curious, should we keep on going around the horn here, or should we talk about maybe some of the answers that some clients have given me and how that's been used to move forward therapeutically?
Can we do a brief non-family member person that I'd like to talk to?
Sure. Yeah, I think we could all probably have an example of that.
I don't know. Brooke doesn't seem like she has anybody.
I'm stuck after the dogs and a relative I've never met.
No.
I think that, you guys go around. I'm
Sure.
sure I'll come up with someone or a category.
Sorry, is this alive or dead, Sibo?
Yeah.
Alive or dead? Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Do you have someone?
I could do a random firing, but not random, but just a brief firing of things. I go to some people who had big impacts on, like, the Leonardo da Vinci's of the world, right? Just so curious about learning about how his mind worked, or Anne Frank, who was a young girl who lived through the Holocaust, and kind of what it was like for her. She was 15 when she passed. And I also think about, a friend who passed away and for unfortunate circumstances, and having a conversation with her and kind of what led to her passing and things like that. So
Yeah,
a few there that come
sure.
to mind. Mhm.
the ones that popped in my mind was Viktor Frankl. I mentioned his name quite a few times. Kind of
Viktor Frankl, who's that guy?
Every
Who's that guy?
podcast.
Is that
On this
Rascal?
podcast, yes.
The Dalai Lama pops in my mind.
Mhm.
We've heard him speak before, and
Mhm.
he's got this energy to
Mhm.
him. And obviously, been dabbling with a bit of mindfulness meditation myself, but I'm not even sure what I want to say to him. I just want to give him a hug. It might be more of a nonverbal conversation there.
Just stare into his eyes.
Everyone asks him, what's the meaning of life, or how should I enhance my life? And I think we kind of know what he says there, but yeah, he's got that smile, and he's got that humor, which I think would be pretty fun to experience.
Is that it? Anyone else?
I'm gonna steal I asked my brother this question years ago, and he had an interesting answer, and I'm gonna steal it. Adolf Hitler.
Mhm.
Wow.
Obviously, a major historical figure who created a lot of issues, to say it lightly. So it's funny, Viktor Frankl one side of the spectrum, but I'd just be so curious to see how this guy's mind worked.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was going on for him, and that led to
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which we know a little bit of, but
But he was a very
Yeah,
private
give it-
person as well, right? Be just very curious to chat with him. But how about you, Ryan?
Really, in this, particularly this last year, I really felt like I would really love to speak to Martin Luther King Jr.
Mhm.
Just, I mean, he died so many years ago, 50 years ago, but to be able to talk with him about what his view is of where we are and where we need to go as far as race relations right now. He had a vision, he had a dream, right? I have a dream. I think we've made some progress. I think we've stalled in progress in other areas, and I'd just love to see if he were here and able to look around and see where race relations are in the U.S. and Canada. I'm sure he'd have some opinions on Indigenous folks in Canada, and all the other racial issues going on there too. I would just love to see how he felt, like an assessment almost, like give us a progress report. How are things going, and where are we on track, and where are we missing the boat? I think he was such a visionary, and so well equipped to both speak to the topics, but also to see kind of where the problems were. So Martin Luther King Jr. would be a top choice there. And another one, and this is just kind of selfish for me, but my favorite author, my favorite author is Kurt Vonnegut. And that's because I didn't like to read much in junior high and high school until someone gave me a Kurt Vonnegut book and said, read this, and just blew my mind for how amazing a writer he was, and how he could use language in ways that I just never seen used before. It turns out he also had a strong message about kind of free will and determinism and a lot of other things going on there, that kind of a deeper psychological and philosophical bent there. But you know what? I was supposed to see Kurt Vonnegut speak in person. He was going to do a little book reading and speak in 2007, May of 2007. And then he died in April of 2007. I missed it.
Oh no.
Drat. So I'd like to talk to Kurt Vonnegut, see what I missed during his talk, and maybe see what he thinks of how the world's doing too.
Cool.
Maybe talk to him about writing for a little while. So those are mine.
Yep. Brooke, do you have some ideas?
I don't really know. I feel like there's so many important figures in history, and whether that's political or through the arts, or there's just so many people that we could bring back and learn from for an hour, but I don't know if there's like a top 3 or 5 that I can really pick from, because they would Yeah, and I think I'm also biased just given the line of work that we have, where I really feel like we learn a lot from anyone that we sit down with. And it could be like a Syrian refugee from everything that's gone on recently, right? Like,
Sure.
and what happened there and what their journey or story is. It could be Michael Jackson. It could be
Mhm.
somebody who's doing amazing things that I don't even know exist right now, right? Or some of the famous women in history and what they've been through. And yeah, so I don't think that I can really even narrow it down to a top three. So I think that anyone that you sit down with, you're going to find tremendous value talking to them.
Yeah, for sure. No, good point. Good point.
Mhm.
So yeah, as I mentioned, I've asked this question to lots of clients over the years, and I get some really interesting answers. It could be, yeah, musicians, athletes, historical figures, humanitarians. Um, you know, to Brooke's point, there's like so many different possibilities there, right? So what I try to understand is what is important to this individual. What is there a clue here in terms of what gives them some meaning and purpose in their life? And I want you to think of maybe 4 categories. One is connection. Next one is passion. Next one is cause. And the last one is spirituality or connection with nature. It can mean different things for different people. And a lot of overlap with those 4. But we went to family. We went to, I think there was a heavy connection bias there, which I'm not surprised by based on what I know about you. I could also give you a clue if someone is maybe still grieving the loss of a loved one. And if that's the case, then maybe it would be important for them to maybe write a letter to that loved one, or great idea there in terms of what would that person say. They can offer you that wisdom, even if they're not with us anymore. For a lot of people, we go down the path of a passion or a cause. So, Joanna mentioned Da Vinci,
Mhm.
and so maybe there's a curiosity there, creativity there. And I would encourage people to explore that, right? To maybe learn more about that individual and their craft. I think that could be a source of growth for that person, or could lead to further growth for that person. So yeah, lots of different possibilities there, of course. But it also gives me clues in terms of kind of how their mind works as well. Maybe certain personality traits and characteristics that they have based on how that conversation would go.
Cool. No, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of different ways to go, a lot of things to explore. Just, yeah, hearing their reasoning.
What were your 4 again, Chris?
So
Connection,
my grandfather's, oh, sorry.
No.
connection, cause.
Connection, a cause, so something greater than yourself, a passion,
Passion.
and spirituality
Mm.
are the 4.
Okay.
Just, yeah, I'm always curious, like when people pick something, I think we're trying to like fulfill a need that we have within ourselves.
Mm.
That's how I kind of view this question, like kind of more that like what are you getting from that conversation? What is that?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that conversation? What would you be filling that you don't already have now within yourself, or a piece that might be lacking, whether that's guidance or answers or grief? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this question is, yeah, very revealing for people.
I chose my mom, Martin Luther King Jr. and Kurt Vonnegut, and I think a common thread there is these are all people I look up to and kind of value their perspective on the world or on me, with regard to my mom, and I guess I would want to talk to them because I want to know. I'd want to get some sort of sense of, am I doing it right? Like, am I going the right direction here, or are we going the right direction in terms of like racism, stuff like that, or is the world moving? Is there something we need to correct? These are people I look forward, or I look up to, admire as folks who have some wisdom, and would like to know if there's something that we can learn from them or correct our course if we need to, right?
Which is pretty telling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
definitely a major focus of yours, right?
It is.
Trying to put those pieces together and trying to
Mhm.
find ways to impact people in a positive way. So
And I think,
Yes.
yeah. And I think that I feel like the closer to home, like the family, like with your mom, there's a little bit of a more, obviously. But yeah, tell me more about myself, or there's this maybe validation or a little bit, I need to find out a little bit more. Am I doing it right kind of thing, right? In
Mhm.
in a different way than on the societal level.
It's true.
yeah, there's so many different avenues to go from there.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Chris, do you think that there's, like you mentioned that you asked this to clients, and I'm sure this is more than just, let's give us something to talk about. You're trying to help explore them, help them kind of become curious about themselves maybe, and figure out, oh, these are the sorts of things I'm interested in, and here's why. And then you talked about some exercises that might come from that, like writing a letter or doing some other things. Like, is that
Yeah.
something that becomes maybe a focus of treatment, or something you revisit?
For sure. Yeah. Like, as I mentioned, you kind of get some clues there in terms of what maybe gives them meaning and purpose. Not always the case, or how their minds kind of work a bit. So it could inform the therapeutic process, no doubt. Or, Jesus comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, you find out that, hey, there's a strong spirituality here. And so that could definitely inform the where we're going. So it could be a pretty blatant clues there. But often there's, a lot of musicians come up too, and or artists as well. So again, fostering creativity. So you don't necessarily have to sit down with this individual to get that insight. There might be information out there that you can learn, or maybe you can allocate a bit more time to work on your craft, right? Trying to perfect your creative outlet, whatever that might be.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
I think,
like this.
yeah, and Chris, I think you've posed this question before. I don't know how it came up because we've talked before about it, and whether there was kind of 3 moments, and you can go, like, if you can go to 3 moments in time, right? Whether backwards or forwards, which moments would you go to, right? So if you want
The time machine question.
yeah.
Mhm.
So do you want to
Yeah.
go forward, and if so, to where, and what would be your purpose? Do you want to find something out? And then backwards, it tends to be would you go back to a certain particular time, or what a bit would have been like to experience a certain way of life, or to meet a certain person, or go back in time with a family member, etc. So that's another way of putting it, the time machine one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one opens up a whole bunch of doors as well.
Mhm.
No doubt about it. That would be another topic for
Yeah.
another podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, we
yeah,
could do some of those technique sort of questions, from miracle question to
Mhm.
points in time to a lot of others that are really important. But I appreciate this one. This is nice. And hey, maybe people got to know us a little bit better through this one too. Huh?
Mhm.
So if you're listening at home, maybe write down or ponder what 3 people you'd like to meet, and then maybe ask that question: why out of all the possibilities, why did I land on these 3?
Mhm.
Maybe maybe there's an opportunity there to enhance a connection, passion, a cause, or spirituality in your life.
What might they have to say to you? And what might they wish for you also?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are all very good questions. Well, great. I like this topic, Chris. Thank you for it. I'm sad that we won't be meeting next week, but we will meet the following week.
Mhm.
And
Which is your topic, Ryan, right?
which is my topic. I'll plan it out now so I don't forget. And we will reconvene and have a good time. In the meantime, people can listen to our past podcasts and see what they think was their favorite. Maybe it was this one tonight. I mean, for goodness sake, this is a thinker. If you have any ideas on who you'd like to speak to, living or dead, please write us at info@mentalhealthbootcamp.com. So with that, we will say good night. Like and
Good night,
subscribe.
everyone.
Apple,
Sorry.
Google, Podbean, Audible, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Send your questions to info@mentalbootcamp.com. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram, and really do visit us. Come visit, say hi, talk to us, give us your answers. Tell a friend or 2 or 14. And that's it for us, you guys. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Right.